At 1:47 p.m., 8 Iranian fast attack boats closed to boarding distance on the USS Tempest. So why did a routine harassment suddenly look like a seizure? You're in the right place. We're going to walk the exact timeline from that first radio demand for submission to the moment a distress call flipped a quiet patrol into a regional security event. Stay to see how a lone ship became a trigger for destroyers, aircraft overhead, and a hidden special operations team that changed the Iranians' calculus in minutes. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why did 8 fast attack boats switch from lazy circles to dropping boarding hooks within minutes? Because the routine ended the second they decided control wasn't going to be argued over a radio. It would be taken by force. Tempest was on steady patrol in international waters, logging bearings, answering taunts with the same measured line about lawful navigation. Close passes at 30 to 50 yards had become background noise in this corridor. Hull numbers were noted. Wake turbulence was ignored. The crew kept booms, hoses, and small arms in ready condition, but the posture stayed defensive, steady speed, straight track, and recorded comms. That changed when the pack split into 3 elements and pushed in tight from bow, beam, and stern. The broadcasts switched from heckling to control claims and orders to submit. Tempest answered with plain language about position, status, and intent to maintain course and speed. No evasive turns, no bluff. The Iranian boats used the gaps to tighten the box, their helms rocking to keep pace off the patrol craft's quarters. The goal was clear: slow her, pin her, and step across the rail. Then the visual shift arrived. Deck crews hauled ladders from the gunnels. Boarding hooks slid forward on lines. Men pulled on masks and gloves while gunners kept muzzles level. Engines throttled up and down to match Tempest's speed within boarding range. A camera feed caught a crewman testing a hook bite on his own rail. That single motion turned speculation into intent. Under maritime law, attempting to board a foreign military vessel without consent in international waters signals unlawful hostile intent. The threshold from harassment to attempted seizure had been crossed. Stakes rose fast. On the surface, it looked like a small patrol craft outnumbered and isolated, with an escort cargo ship riding nearby in a choke point where seconds matter. The channel's width limited maneuvering room. A collision at these speeds could create the same outcome as a successful boarding: loss of control and a forced stop. Every second the box tightened. The risk of a grapnel catching the Tempest's lifelines went up. Comms spiked. Tempest transmitted clear warnings. Operating lawfully, not submitting, prepared to defend. The demand to submit was recorded. The patrol kept course and speed to avoid signaling panic or creating a collision angle. Helm and engineering held a steady rhythm. Small arms teams shifted positions to cover approaches where hooks would likely fly. The goal wasn't to trade rounds. It was to deny the step across the rail long enough for the bigger system to move. The captain keyed the next switch. A distress signal went out, specifying an unlawful boarding attempt in progress. That message didn't ask for rescue. It told a network to execute. It linked sensors, operation centers, and nearby units into one timeline centered on a single hull. Within seconds, circuits that sit quiet on most days were live. Call signs woke up, plots updated, and assets moved. This was the mini payoff. The distress call wasn't a plea for help, it was a trigger. Response packages had names, routes, and standing tasks built for this exact moment. Regional air crews received vectors. Surface units got standoff geometry. The cargo ship's escort label gained a different weight. It carried more than containers and spare parts. It carried people who train for blades, boots, and boarding denial if the worst happens at the rail. And now the water started to crowd. Tracks multiplied on radar. The air overhead thickened. The boxed patrol ship stopped looking alone as the layered defense began to take shape around her, while the quiet vessel off her beam revealed it had one more card to play. How does a lone patrol ship become the center of a multi-axis defense in under 10 minutes? by turning a single distress transmission into a tasking order for ships, aircraft, and a team waiting behind a steel hull that looked like a freighter. The moment the unlawful boarding attempt was declared, 2 destroyers on nearby patrol rolled to flank speeds and bent their tracks toward the Tempest box. Air crews already airborne took vectors. Encrypted links stitched the radar paints, camera feeds, and voice circuits into one picture that every player could see and act on without waiting for a new briefing. The timeline tightened as the Iranian boats tried to force the close. Short bursts cracked off their bows and across Tempest's wake, meant to rattle the deck and compress the last few yards. That gunfire changed the calculus. Rules that had held fire a moment earlier now allowed a precision response, not just against the shooters, but against the chain that reloads them. Tempest held course to keep a stable lane for the response, while helm orders on the destroyers set standoff arcs that prevented crossfire and kept civilian tracks outside the engagement cone. On the surface layer, the destroyers split roles. One established a northern offset, the other a southern, creating crossing fields that boxed the attackers without masking Tempest. Target designations rolled by hull and bearing. Final warnings went out on a guarded frequency, not for debate, but to deconflict friendlies and deter follow-on boats still outside the ring. Fire control radars tightened, but the first effects came from stabilized guns and guided rounds chosen to stop engines, smash mounts, and end mobility before crews could throw more hooks. Overhead, surveillance aircraft pinned exact tracks and highlighted command nodes relaying orders to the skirmishers. Strike-capable platforms eased to weapons ranges and held. Sensors poured altitude, speed, and course into the shared picture, and each update cued a cleaner shot. The air layer wasn't just watching, it was sequencing the next 30 seconds so ground truth matched the rules on the net. Each fix narrowed the window for the attackers and opened options for follow-on strikes if they tried to scatter back to refuel and rearm. The hidden layer came alive beside them. The cargo ship held a special operations detachment seated for a hard turn and a short ride. Their task was simple and brutal if it came to it. Deny any step onto Tempest's deck and clear anything that made it across. They rehearsed the lane, checked breaching tools, and synced radios to the patrol ship's internal net. If a boarding line landed, they were ready to cut, push, and finish at arm's length while the wider fight unfolded. Here's the doctrine working in real time. Layered defense means no single platform must carry the fight. Effects stack across distance and time. The patrol ship buys minutes and data. Destroyers shape angles and remove teeth. Air finds brains and fuel. The detachment guards the rail. The network wins by compressing the attacker's choices until the only one left is to break contact or be broken. Once fired upon, the response unlocked. Precision fire ripped the lead boat's engines and mounts. Survivors tried to peel off toward their nearest cove. The air layer shifted from fixes to strikes, rolling effects onto moored craft, refueling bladders, and the small command shacks juggling boats on push-to-talk sets.